Hi, today I'm going to make worm tea and water across my plants. I do that to improve the health of the soil by adding good bacteria and nutrients to the soil, and that in turn helps my plants. Here's two of my worm farms. They're just the normal can of worm style worm farm with the legs cut off and the base from each tier removed so that it's effectively 3 rings sitting on the ground like a bottomless tub. That way the worms can come and go in extreme temperatures in winter and summer, and it helps them to stay alive. Since using this style of worm farm, I have found that I don't have a death rate over winter and summer like I used to. So I've already harvested the worms from this farm. That's a coffee pod that is meant to be decomposable, but it hasn't in the whole year that it's been there. There's a lot of mango seeds and eggshells and corn husks that haven't broken down yet. The farm itself is in too much sun since I've trimmed the Photinia hedge, so we're moving the farm to a shadier spot. I just put the worm castings into a colander, and for the record, this is my gardening colander, not my kitchen colander. 2 separate colanders. I put the castings into the colander and then I just rinse them off and I use the water runoff. Not all of the worm castings goes through the colander. There's a lot of eggshells left. There's probably a few worms left over too and some slaters, and they're okay to stay in there. I just put the leftovers into my new worm farm and they can decompose a little bit further. The water coming out's quite murky because it's got all of the nutrients, which is wonderful for the garden. When I finished rinsing them off, I just fill the bucket up with water. The more dilute I make it means that I've got more worm tea to water over the yard. Fairly murky brown. When I've filled the bucket up, I just pour it into a watering can and water the yard. Here's my new worm farm under the shady camellia bush. It has a brick on top because Frank, my helper, tends to do quality assurance checks on the food. Yes, don't you, Frank? You check it out. So we put the brick on top so you don't overwork yourself and get into it. Here's the new worm farm. It has food that hasn't been broken down yet. I tend not to put citrus or onions in my worm farms. And here is a worm from my compost, this particular one. That clitellum is the reproductive organ in a worm, and in red wrigglers it becomes prominent when they're of an age that they can reproduce. I think mine are red wrigglers, but I'm not certain about it. But I did originally purchase red wrigglers and tiger worms, and I think that this is a red wriggler. I wanted also to compare this worm from the compost with this worm from my worm farm. I think that they're the same worm. If you know about composting worms and you know whether I have red wrigglers or some other type of worm, I'd love you to leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching.